anytime I go to buy a car, it's always a story, but especially when me and my friends go to buy cars, it's always a story. I feel like half the time, or not even half the time, half of the journey of buying cars, there should always be a story to it. I feel like if you just give somebody money and you take the car and you go home, it's not as fun. Like, you either have to almost die, almost get arrested, almost get stranded. Like, something has to happen in order for it to be truly, like, the most fun.
This is Red Mansion Music.
Me and my buddy Brandon one time, we're always sending each other Facebook marketplace listings, etc. And at the time he expressed to me he wanted to get another E34. So before he had the 530 that he has now, the white one, he had the green one and he had a Speed 3 and a couple other cars. But he said, Asaad, I'm thinking about selling the Speed 3. Oh, okay. What are you thinking of getting? He's like, I want to get another E34. When he sold it, he bought an E30.
Let's hear it. Give a little beat.
He had a 4-door E30 that was like a whole story to get that car. He had it for a bit. He was fixing it up. And then he was like, I'm thinking about getting rid of this car. So I'm going to get another E34. Now, he found one in Virginia Beach. It was a nice car for what it was, all things considered. He was like, hey, would you mind coming down with me to go pick it up? Sure, why not? It's a road trip. Me and the boys, you know, I'm gonna help my boy out. We drove down in the GS, went down to go pick it up. He only showed me a few pictures of this car. I had not seen it. He'd been talking to the guy back and forth. And what happened was he went down by himself to go look at the car. And the guy didn't want that much money for it. He wanted like $1,400 for the car. You know, I think this is worth, you know, the money, but I got to sell my other car to get the money to buy it. And the guy, you know, was like, well, what do you got? Like, you know, you got another car? And he's like, yeah, I got an E30. You know, it's 85. It doesn't, you know, it's got the EFI. It's not that great. I'm thinking about, you know, chucking it. Well, shoot, I want an E30. Let's just do a trade, title for title. What? Okay, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I always wanted an E30. It's a 5-speed, I'll take it. What makes these cars desirable is like the E34 has so many different options and models and different stuff, but like the most desirable is one with the winter package. The winter package, you got heated seats, LSD, 5-speed. So really good car, and the body was straight. And he's like, okay, we come to the house. It's sitting outside. I come up. This car is a heap. Like it's for all intents and purposes, it is definitely one of the cars of all time. And it's like on the ground, it's low, it's on these diamond steelies, stretch tires. The hood is like, has bed liner on it. The paint is like completely dicked. It's straight. The body's there. Like there's no dents, no rust, nothing. It's missing stuff in the interior. Listen, the guy only wanted like $1,200 for the car. So you can't get mad at it, right? And it's trade for title for title. So I look at the car and I'm like, we're talking to the owner, real chill dude, super nice. You know, and I ask him, I'm like, hey, is this on what is this on? Like, is it on coilovers? What? No, I'm like, is it on coilovers? It's pretty low. No. I'm like, lowering springs? No. Like, well, what is it on? How does it solo to the ground? It has no suspension. It's on hockey puck. I'm like, are you serious? We got to drive this thing 5 hours back. Matter of fact, Brandon's got to drive this 5 hours back. This thing's a fucking skateboard. It's got no suspension. The suspension is the tires. But listen, I support my homies, okay? It's not my decision, but we're going to make it work. So we get the car. We're on our way back. So no suspension, paint's dicked, the interior's missing, bed liner, hood, no AC, there's no heat. The radio's missing. The control module for all the electrics in the car, all the creature comforts, does not work. We are about to leave, and I check the forecast. A monsoon is coming. And I'm like, oh, this is great. This is fantastic. We're 5 hours from home, and we're about to get swept up in Hurricane Katrina 2 electric boogaloo. Like, how is this going to make sense? What are we doing?
Started from the bottom, now we way up.
So I mapped it out. I said, if we leave at exactly this moment, and we did this all in one day. So I'm like, if we leave right now, we will miss the storm because we got to cross the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. And if any of you know, if you've ever been on that bridge, it is a long stretch of road, and there's nowhere to stop, turn around. You got to keep going. So I'm like, if we go, we'll hit it because the wipers didn't even work. They had one speed, which was fast as fuck. So I said, we got to put the windows up. So we stop at Walmart. We brought every tool that possibly, the whole trunk of my GS was a fucking AutoZone. So we brought everything we needed to make this car, if something broke, we would be able to fix it. So we go to Walmart, we buy new wiper blades, we buy tape, we get Allen keys, and we tape the windows up. So we pull them up and we tape them up, and you can pop the panel for the sunroof motor and you can put an Allen key in it and literally hand crank it. So we hand cranked it closed, and we're like, all right.
Started from the bottom, now we way up.
I'm lead car because I have a functional vehicle, and Brandon's behind me. We're driving, you know, and my car's not lowered. So I go over a bump and it's just a casual, you know, oh, okay. But then I realized he's driving a skateboard. So I look behind me and this man is catching air, and like to the point that sparks are coming out. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, and the exhaust is hanging off, is not connected, and the gas tank is held up by a ratchet strap. So we drive a whole 5 hours with this car through rain, through everything, and we get back to Philadelphia at like, oh my God, I think we got back, we watched the sun come up. So I know we came back at like 5 in the morning. But what was really funny is before we got back, we stopped at a gas station, right? And we get gas, and a police officer sees us. It's 3 in the morning, and he sees us. He just comes over to us, and he's like, "Are you guys good?" "Yeah." "Oh," and he's like looking at the car. He's like, "Are you sure?" Like, "Yeah, we're fine. We just bought it." And I shit you not, like, he literally looks at us and goes, "Yikes." Oh, that's a good sign. That's really great. But what really set this story off was we get about halfway home. We stop at a Wawa, and we were so tired, so beat. And I know Brandon's beat because he's literally been pelted by the rain, no suspension, like everything, like we're beat up. He pulls in. I pull at the gas station to get gas. To this day, I don't know what possessed me to do this. I get out the car. I don't say a word. I get out my car, close the door, walk over to his car, open the door, open the driver's side door. I popped the hood, and I swung the hood open, and the radiator was almost touching the aux fan. At some point during the journey, probably one of the 2 monster truck jam jumps that he did going like when we were crossing the bridge, the radiator bracket broke. And the only thing keeping it off of the aux fan was literally the top intercooler, the top radiator piping. So I just see it. I don't tell him. I don't say anything. I just turn around. I go back to my car. I grab a bunch of zip ties, and I zip tie the radiator back to the bracket. I just zip tie it, close the hood, and I go inside and I get a Slurpee. If I didn't do that, he would have hit a bump, and that radiator would have just smacked the aux fan and killed it, and we would have been stranded. That's what friends are for. So that was quite a journey. We got the car back. Listen, for what it was, the transmission was solid, the engine was solid. It didn't hiccup, backfire, nothing. It was a smooth running car, and I think that's why he wanted it, because the bones were solid. When you buy these cars, you kind of got to take what you can get, but when you got something that's solid, right, everything else goes out the window. You're like, listen, it runs, it drives, it's good. Everything else can come in time. So he had that car for a little bit, and then he ended up selling it. And what was really funny is when he sold it, we had been on a couple adventures in the car. We took it to some meets. We actually took it to Regular Car Reviews, one of their Philly meets, and Mr. Regular got to sign the hood. I had the idea of propping the hood open because, you know, on the older BMWs, the hood swings forward. So I had him, I'm like, hey, you know what we should do? Because the hood's basically bed liner and it's like a chalkboard. We should get a box of chalk and put it in front of the car. And if somebody, you know, people come by, they should just be able to doodle on it. So we did that, and it was a hit. Everybody loved it. They were doodling on it. It graffitied the whole hood. But then it rained and it washed it away. But it was like, you know, it was a cool story. We have pictures of it and stuff. But yeah, that was a fun little journey. And then he sold the car. Now, when you sell a car, you have no idea where it's going to go. You don't know where it's going to end up. It disappears. And you just hope that it's, that, you know, maybe you might see it, or it might be in a junkyard wrapped around a tree or back on Marketplace. You have no idea. So one day we actually go to a meet, a Pizza Boy official meet, and me and him, we pull up, and this time he has the 530 and I have my 7, and at this point we hadn't seen the car in a long time, and I see this red E34 sitting off in the corner, but it's got black bumpers on it, and I say, huh, that car looks kind of familiar, but I don't think anything of it because, you know, why would I? So I'm talking to people. The owner of the car sees Brandon's 530 and he's like, oh, that's a nice BMW, man. Oh, I have E34 as well. He's like, oh, cool. Where's yours? Points over to his car, the red one. They go over, they start talking, you know, one thing led to another, and, you know, they're talking about the car, and he's like, I had a similar car, same color and everything. Really? He's like, yeah. It had, you know, it had like 200-something thousand miles on it. Mine has 200-something thousand miles on it. What? Like, and then he looks at the car, and come to find out, it's the exact same car. Some guy bought the car, and it went through like 2 different people, and then he ended up buying it, and he brought it to the meet. Brandon tells me, he's like, he just points at the car, and instantly, I remembered, because I almost whooped his ass for selling that car, because I was like, all the nonsense we went through to get this car, and you're gonna sell it. I was like, how could you? But to see it in person again, I was like, the world really is that small. And what was crazy is I'm like, this is how I know. I'm like, pop the hood. Sure enough, popped the hood, and the zip ties were still on there from when I put them on when we brought the car back. I did that. I did that. This is the car. This is the same car. And it was so crazy to me because, like, you know, again, you don't expect to see your car again, but like to have it, you know, especially the guy that bought it, really great guy. I forget his name, so please forgive me. Brandon knows him. He's actually taking care of the car. He did a lot of repairs on it. He fixed the bumpers. You know, he replaced the head unit. Like, he's taking care of the car, which is great because it had good bones. And it's like, you know, it's nice to see that somebody else saw the value in the car and, you know, they're willing to do the work to it. And it's also not, you know, just like wrapped around a tree somewhere. So that was awesome. But yeah, honestly, like BMWs, I feel like, you know, we're all kind of like, especially in PA, I feel like we're all kind of connected to one another. So it's a very small community for the most part, but we all kind of like, everybody knows somebody that knows somebody, and we're all connected one way or another.